What's up, everybody? I'm Brad. Welcome to Sports Magazine Collector. Today, I'm going to do a very brief tutorial on how to navigate the CGC pop reports. All right, let's jump right in. So very first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to go to Google or whatever search engine and type in CGC census. So it's the pop reports. Most grading companies refer to these things as the pop reports, but CGC, it's actually called the census. So we're going to select the CGC census, and it's going to take us into the CGC website. And this is where you will basically search for whatever publication that you are looking for. Now, you guys know most of the time I'm looking at Sports Illustrated, so let's go ahead and take a look first at Sports Illustrated. You can actually search by the exact issue number, but for issue number, you've usually got to open up the magazine and look at that second or third page. It's usually easier for me to ignore the issue number, and I just like to search by the publication. So we're going to type in Sports Illustrated, we're going to hit search, and we're going to see what comes up here. And here we go. We've got quite a few different options. So this is definitely important for you to know. CGC breaks up all these different types of Sports Illustrated issues into different categories in the census. So we've got the primary Sports Illustrated, but look at some of these others. There's SI China, there's Sports Illustrated for Kids, Sports Illustrated Presents is a very common one. And then there's a bunch of just like special issues. Sports Illustrated presents Kobe, Sports Illustrated presents Dallas Cowboys. Some of these special issues that Sports Illustrated put out, CGC actually considers them to be almost separate publications just because of the way that the magazine was labeled when it was published. So we're just going to go ahead and look at the regular Sports Illustrated. That is where the majority of the Sports Illustrated issues are listed. Now, once you get into here, you're going to see that it's listed chronologically, at least for the most part. There are a few issues up here that are out of order. I don't really know what the deal is. I think these are just some issues that CGC kind of needs to clean up in their census. But if you scroll down just a little bit here, you can see that it starts with issue number 1, volume number 1, issue number 1. This is from 1954, and we're familiar with this issue. It's the one with Eddie Matthews on the cover. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. I click on that issue, and you can see at the top, CGC will list some basic information about this specific issue. It shows Eddie Matthews is on the cover, and then here is the actual data in the pop report in the census. So we can look on this right-hand column all the way in the bottom. There have been a total of 558 copies of this issue graded. Now, there's some different categories that it breaks it up into. Universal is the primary category. That's that blue label. That's what you see most graded issues have, and that's what most collectors want, are that universal blue label. And you can see of the 558 copies graded, 541 of those have that universal blue label. Now, there are a few qualified, and qualified could mean maybe there's writing on the cover. There could be a few other reasons they might label something as qualified. Signature series, there's never been one on this issue. I think there's been very, very few signature series on any Sports Illustrated. And that's because CGC is just really strict about their signatures. Basically, in order to get a signature series label, your issue has to be autographed in the presence of a CGC employee. A CGC employee has to physically witness that magazine getting signed, and that's just really, really rare. It's not as rare on the comic side because all the time they have these guest artists and people do signatures at like the Comic-Con shows, but it just doesn't happen much with Sports Illustrated. So there's been none there. And then there's restored. You've had 11 restored. So that could mean that somebody maybe touched up the cover with some marker to try and make it look better, or maybe even reinserted some staples that had fallen out. Something like that would label it as restored. So for the most part, you want to look at the universal column, and then you can see here on the left-hand side, it's breaking them all down by the grade. So there has never been a Sports Illustrated graded at a 9.9 or 10.0, even though it is physically possible. There are a few comics out there that have obtained that grade, very, very, very rare. Like I said, has never happened up to this point for Sports Illustrated. So 9.8 is pretty much considered the gold standard. You can see there have been 76 9.8s of this issue graded. And by the way, this issue we're looking at, this is the most frequently graded copy of all time of any Sports Illustrated. Several reasons for that. Number one, this issue never had a mailing label. Every single copy that was distributed of this first issue is basically considered to be a newsstand, which really drives up the pop counts. And also, they sold these as collector's items. They had a bunch of extra copies they had printed that they saved in a warehouse for many years, and then they resold them several decades later as collector's items. And so, a bunch of people got copies of this first issue in pristine condition. That's why these pop reports are so high on this one. Usually, you're not going to see anything anywhere close. In fact, I don't think there's ever even been another one that's hit over 200 as of yet. So anyway, yeah, 76 9.8s, 129 9.6s. You can move all the way down the line. There's even been one 0.5, and that is really how you can take a look at the different grades that have been assigned. And this can be important in helping to determine the value of your magazine because pop report matters. If you have an issue, let's say that you've got an issue that's an 8.0, but maybe there's never been an issue graded higher. Maybe that 8.0 is the highest graded copy in the world. Well, that 8.0 is going to have a lot more value than maybe this 8.0, where there's many, many copies graded higher. So that can be why the pop report is important because it really helps you to take a good look at the rarity of your specific issue. Okay, still on the same page here with Sports Illustrated. I've gone back to the listing of all the different issues, and I have scrolled down a little bit. I'm going to look at this issue from November 28th, 1983. Some of you hardcore collectors will know exactly what this issue is. Number 23, there's a hint. Volume 59, issue number 23. This was Michael Jordan's first Sports Illustrated cover. And you can see even here, it says first Michael Jordan cover. So CGC is not great about this on the Sports Illustrated side, but us collectors will oftentimes request certain labeling whenever we send an issue in to be graded. If it's a key first cover, a lot of times we will note that on a sticky note or on the packing slip, and we'll ask CGC to add that to the label. Slowly but surely, they have been adding those. And this Michael Jordan issue, it's one of the biggest key issues, so they have added that notation, first Michael Jordan. And Sam Perkins cover, although let's be honest, no one's collecting this because it's Sam Perkins' first cover. No offense, Sam Perkins. He had a good NBA career too. But that means that any copy of this issue that is sent in to be graded from this point on is always going to notate that first Michael Jordan cover, which is really cool. Collectors like that. So anyway, here's what I want you to see on this one that's a little bit different from before. So you can see same sort of thing as we looked at before. There's been 89 copies of this one graded. 86 of them are the Universal Blue label. There's never been a 9.8. There's one 9.6. That would fetch big, big, big dollars if it ever went for sale. But let's scroll down a little bit. This is what I want you to see. There's a second grouping here of subscription edition. So all those copies at the top, oh, I accidentally hit on see detail there. I didn't mean to do that. All these copies at the top are considered newsstand. Okay. And you heard me mention with that first issue we looked at from 1954, every one of those that were ever sent out were considered newsstand. That's why there's not a second category here for subscription. But for this Michael Jordan, you can see there's actually been 131 subscription copies sent in of this Michael Jordan first cover. Now, the subscription copies are not nearly as rare. The newsstand issues are the ones that have higher value, that are harder to find. There's many, many many subscription issues out there, but people still send them in to be graded sometimes, especially on these big time key issues, such as this Michael Jordan first cover. So really important to differentiate in the census report that you know the difference between the newsstand pop reports and also the subscription pop reports. All right, something else I want you guys to see about the census is that when you have a regional variant, CGC will often break those variants up into their own little census reports, which is great. So here's an example from October 27th, 2008. This was an NBA preview cover, and actually there were six different regional variants distributed that week. So depending on which region you lived in geographically, you were going to get a different cover. There was a LeBron James, a Kobe Bryant, a Kevin Durant, a Kevin Garnett, a Dwight Howard, and then also an Elton Brand. So what happened here is this first section. You can see there's 2 graded in this first section. This was before CGC had broken up the separate variants. And so actually you can see it just says NBA preview LeBron James cover. Well, if you scroll down a little bit, well, then you can see country/variant Kobe Bryant cover. And there have been 3 of those graded. And then if you scroll down a little further, then it says LeBron James cover. And there's 1 of those graded. So what this means is it's breaking out the different variants, but CGC, when they graded the first 2, they didn't realize yet that this was a variant issue. That they didn't realize that there were different covers graded that week. What this tells me is that the very first issue that they graded of this was LeBron James. And what I know is that so there's a 9.2 and then there's an 8.5. Well, that 9.2 happens to be mine, and it's a Kobe Bryant. And I know that because I have this issue, Kobe Bryant 9.2, but if you scroll down to the Kobe, it's not listed because my issue was graded before they had broken the census up. So basically what I know is this 8.5 must have been a LeBron because the very first one they graded was a LeBron. The 9.2 is my Kobe, and then after that, the issues graded subsequently, they did actually break out 3 Kobe's and 1 LeBron. And then obviously none have been ever graded of that Garnett, that Dwight Howard, the Durant, and so on. So I want you guys to see what that variant looks like. And here's another example. It's not just of regional, it's not just of different covers, but here's the Mickey Mantle very first cover from 1956, probably the most collectible issue of all time. You can see that you've got your normal census up here. There's been 28 copies graded in newsstand. But if you scroll down, there's also a centerfold variant, and there have been 10 of those. I don't know a lot about that, but you can see right here the key comments. It says this is the first Mickey Mantle cover. It also says distributed without centerfold, pages 37 through 40. So what that indicates to me is these 28 copies up here didn't have that centerfold in 37 through 40. But these 10 copies did, and CGC actually denotes the difference there. And that can sometimes make a difference to collectors. And then if you scroll down, they've also got the section for subscription as well. So be aware when you have a regional variant, a lot of times you have to notate that on the label when you send it in, because just like we saw with that Kobe issue, they're not necessarily going to know until someone requests for it to be broken up into its own separate category. But it's very helpful to collectors whenever they do break that up so that you can know which is which. Because obviously in this situation, a 9.8 of this cover for Kobe or LeBron would be legitimately more collectible and valuable than a 9.8 in, say, the Elton Brand cover. So very helpful when CGC breaks up those different variants in the census. All right, and last thing, let's just go back and look at this initial search page. There obviously are lots of other publications that you can look for. We checked out Sports Illustrated just because that's a very common for me. But let's just check Sport. There's Sport Magazine that's pretty popular. And sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to find the exact magazines that you're looking for. And you got to do a little bit of digging. So you can see when I search sport here, a lot of different options are coming up. All these different publications with the word sport in the title. Now they are in alphabetical order. So if I scroll down here, I'm looking for just sport, but even then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 different ones with some different publishers here. And so sometimes you just got to click into it and look at the different years and issues graded and see if this is the one that you're looking for. Sometimes you got to play around with it. Let's also go back and let's look at Slam magazine. That's a very, very popular magazine. And if I search Slam, same thing. There's a lot of different slams, and what happens there. This is the case with sport. This is also the case with Slam. Is some of these publications have gotten bought out by different companies, and so their publisher changes over time. And so this is still a lot of these. I think all of these are still the same Slam magazine. It's just that over the years they have different publishers, and so CGC will then separate them into different categories. So on these searches, like I said, sometimes you've just got to play around and see if you can find. Let's see. I know Negro Heroes is a really cool one. There's like a cool Jackie Robinson cover in there. So if I were to search for Negro, Let's see, there's a few different options here, and here's what I'm looking for, Negro Heroes, and we'll select that. And look, there's only been 2 copies of this magazine graded, and I know that this 1948 is the Jackie Robinson, so I select that, and there have been 58 copies of that Jackie Robinson graded. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate likes, comments, subscribes. And until the next video, see you guys next time.